It started Christmas of 2019. My left arm went numb, my vision went blurry, my neck was hurting, and I got sick, and eventually ended up in the emergency room, and through a CT angiogram, they discovered the artery going to my brain tore. I had just started out my job at a law firm and found out I passed the bar, but I went from that to 7 months of bed rest and not being able to move. Went through some depression, but then got over it and thought, that was a fluke. It was a one-time thing. And we had just started living life again and thinking life is back to normal and feeling a lot of joy. And then in June, ended up back in the hospital with stroke-like symptoms. When that happened, I thought to myself, there's a bigger issue here. There's something wrong. I just was in the darkest time of my life, and last night we read the journal entry that I first wrote when I was going through all of this, because my therapist encouraged me to journal, and it was such a dark entry, and it was saying, what's the point? Why am I here? Am I just going to live, afraid of the next day, afraid to move, afraid of another stroke? I had a doctor look at me and say, and my mom and I went to an appointment, and the doctor said, do you know how lucky you are to be alive and not paralyzed? And that was really humbling to hear, because the condition I have is ongoing. I was officially diagnosed last week with fibromuscular dysplasia, and that means that my arteries are beaded, and so they widen and narrow in different places, which makes it easier for blood to clot and for me to have a stroke. Seeing the results on the CT angiogram was really terrifying and upsetting. But this time, instead of the first time when I had my dissection, how I was staring at the fan and didn't want to exist, this time I put on my Christian playlist of music from LifePoint. I prayed immediately. I said, God, why is this happening? What does this mean? What are you using me for? How do I not be afraid? And it's just that, I went from taking my anxiety medication and laying in bed and feeling hopeless to turning to God. And that has just saved my life. I have doctors telling me, hey, you have a disease that could kill or paralyze you. And I'm having to wake up each day and say, that's all true, but so is God. And so I'm gonna keep moving forward.
The past few months have certainly reminded us and reinforced that we are not in control. Our marriage is not a bilateral thing, right? It's a triangle, and God's at the top, and the two of us are connected through Him, and that He needs to remain as the focal point of our marriage. And so, this whole experience has brought us back to Him.
I still have my days where I have trouble getting out of bed. I get really bad anxiety about how am I going to continue forward as an attorney, how am I going to continue living out this life that I've created. The difference is that now I bring those questions to God. This is a journey, and life's going to throw more curveballs at us than we've already seen, but now we're more prepared for them, and we have this community at LifePoint to turn to. We're going to continue to have tough days, but now we have God to get through them.